All right, these pictures that you see on your screen right now are from the South Block office of the Ministry of External Affairs. That is Mr. S Jaishankar, who until a few hours ago was the Indian ambassador to the United States, is now the new Foreign Secretary. Remember, there's huge controversy as far as his appointment to that top job is concerned, because he replaces Sujata Singh, whose tenure was curtailed by 6 months. And Jaishankar has in fact assumed office. We'll soon be getting visuals from inside the South Block, the Ministry of External Affairs office, where Mr. Jaishankar is going to assume office. We have Smita Sharma joining us on the phone line. Morning, Smita. A huge political controversy now, this with the Congress coming out and saying that this is retribution for the stand taken on the Devyani Khobragade issue.
Not really, Sanket, not at the moment, because we need to understand that S Jaishankar is one of the really very few diplomats who enjoys such deep respect across political parties. And what is interesting is really, even Dr. Manmohan Singh had wanted to appoint S Jaishankar as the Foreign Secretary. But at that point in time, in fact, there was a divided opinion. And Sujata Singh had approached Sonia Gandhi herself. She, in fact, ensured that, on the superiority basis, that she was the one who should have been appointed as a foreign secretary, and that's how she had assumed office on 1st of August 2013. So clearly, because S. Jaishankar is somebody who's considered to have had a very impressive record as far as his career is concerned. He's a man who doesn't speak too much, but he's a very sharp negotiator and who's had a lot of success stories. And this, in fact, this appointment comes close on the heels of Barack Obama's successful state visit to India. Also remember, Narendra Modi personally was very impressed when he was in Washington, D.C. and New York last year, and we saw that tour where he almost came out like a rock star. So he has always been impressed with Jaishankar, and now, in fact, S. Jaishankar has been given the top job. But unlike in 1987, when Rajiv Gandhi had very unceremoniously sacked the then Foreign Secretary A.P. Venkateswaran, announcing it in a publicly televised press conference, this time around, Sujata Singh, in fact, she has already resigned. She resigned last evening. She cleared out her office, and she has opted for voluntary retirement from the foreign services.
Now, Smita, yes, I mean, there is no one's case that Jaishankar is not a decorated officer, but also, what could be the reason why? Is this an elevation of Jaishankar or a sort of a, putting or showing Ms. Sujata Singh her place, sort of an appointment?
Well, I would say it's more to do with an elevation of Jaishankar, because remember, Sujata Singh, while she is considered somebody who has a good understanding of international issues and complex issues, she's somebody who has a quick understanding. In fact, the administration-wise, in fact, she's somebody who was respected. But S. Jaishankar is known for out-of-box thinking. He's known to take bold decisions, which is more in sync with the kind of policies that we see as far as Narendra Modi himself is concerned. Because he is.
No, but then what explains curtailing of the tenure by 6 months, Smita? That's really the most peculiar bit. I mean, if he's a good administrator, if he's a person who's very, very sharp, thinks out of the box, then why this decision was taken of curtailing Sujata Singh's tenure by 6 months? This could have,
because she was not doing the kind of out-of-the-box thinking with Sanket. Sanket, precisely because she was not somebody who was in sync with the style of politics that we see as far as Narendra Modi himself is concerned. Also, the other thing was, remember, when this government came into place, and in fact, since last September itself, the buzz has been very strong that S. Jaishankar might actually be brought into the Prime Minister's office. They were trying to find a place for him. There you already have a very high security guy like Ajit Doval, who is the National Security Advisor. And, there was even a thought if S. Jaishankar should be brought into the PMO directly, but there could have been, if he had to be brought in as a deputy NSA, S. Jaishankar might have had a problem. In fact, that is why he's now being brought in as the top diplomat, because clearly, Sujata Singh is also somebody who was considered close to Ten Janpat. Let's not forget that. She is daughter of T.V. Rajeshwar, who was the IB chief at one point in time, but also was posted as the governor. And Narendra Modi, in fact, over the last few months, he has been, in fact, been in need of a strong foreign policy hand. Because the way Doval works, it is more in terms of security, in terms of intelligence. But given at a time, when Sujata Singh hasn't actually served in any of the neighborhood missions, if you see, she's not served in Nepal, Bangladesh. Neighborhood clearly is a top priority for Narendra Modi at point in time. S. Jaishankar's profile is larger. He was, of course, ambassador to China before he was posted to America. He handled the Depression crisis in fact, very, very well. That went off very well. He was the Joint Secretary Americas when the civil nuclear agreement was being negotiated with Manmohan Singh as the Prime Minister. And this is a time when, in fact, Narendra Modi wants to take forward that relationship with the US at an all-new level. And that is what we saw happening when Barack Obama was here. So, yes, Sujata Singh's term has been curtailed because she was not in line with the kind of politics that we see that Narendra Modi is indulging in at the moment.
Even Smita Sharma there, our deputy editor, saying that perhaps Sujata Singh, the former foreign secretary, was not in tune or in sync with the present political realities. Let's quickly go across to Maha Siddiqui for more. Maha, what according to you is the reason for Sujata's sudden removal? Because that is going to be the most peculiar bit as far as
the energy of the new Prime Minister Narendra Modi as far as foreign policy issues go. In fact, it was believed that Sujata Singh was not coming out with dynamic solutions to foreign policy issues as what was the expectation of the new Prime Minister Narendra Modi. On the other hand, somebody like Mr. S Jaishankar had shown dynamism and had impressed Narendra Modi, especially in the way he handled his visit to the United States and had facilitated the attendance of US President Barack Obama at the Republic Day parade as the chief guest. These were the issues that really impressed Narendra Modi, and he felt that S Jaishankar was perhaps the person to be in charge who could push the foreign policy in the direction that he wanted. The other reason that, and I will take you a little back in time, is at a time when Sujata Singh was to be appointed the Foreign Secretary. Now, even at that time, Dr. Manmohan Singh was in favor of S Jaishankar, especially because of the fact that Mr. S Jaishankar had served in the neighboring countries, namely China, where he had shown exemplary work in resolving vexed issues between the two countries. Also, the fact that Sujata Singh herself had not served in any of the neighboring countries, which is an unwritten rule and a kind of a requirement for anybody who's elevated to the level of the Foreign Secretary. And Mr. S Jaishankar had that sort of experience. However, at that point in time, Sujata Singh had resorted to political intervention, and it was reported that she had even met Sonia Gandhi to resolve this issue and had threatened to resign if she would be superseded by Mr. S Jaishankar, as she was the senior most at that time. So really a mix of issues here, why we are seeing Sujata Singh making way for S Jaishankar.
All right, quite detailed answer there from Maha Siddiqui. In fact, we'll quickly go back to those visuals that we were playing just a short while back. This is S Jaishankar, the new Foreign Secretary of the Ministry of External Affairs, who has in fact taken over. He has assumed office. He's sitting on that high position, that chair of the Foreign Secretary in the South Block office. Let's quickly listen in. He seems to be answering some questions.
No, just
you didn't let us come and you wanted to run.
okay. Is that good?
Yes. Yeah.
The new Foreign Secretary just quickly signing a few papers as he assumes office. The first question, the first reaction now on your screen.
First of all, the appointment, does it come as a surprise because of the suddenness of it? And what are your three biggest challenges over the next 2 years?
As I take over, I'm happy to work with all of you. I know that the media is an important part of our foreign policy projection. So I don't think this is the time to get into those kinds of questions. I really thank you all for being here today. I value your good wishes. And I'm sure we'll have a lot to do with each other.
But sir, can you outline your priorities? Will the neighboring countries be the priority? Will the West be the priority, or look east? So yes.
My priorities are the government's priorities. And I think at this time, let's leave it at that. So once again, I thank you all for coming, and this is a big responsibility. I'm I would say I'm very honored that I have been assigned this responsibility, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, that was the new Foreign Secretary, Mr. S Jaishankar. His first reaction after assuming charge. He was asked that direct pointed question, what he felt about the way or the manner in which he was appointed as Foreign Secretary. He chose to completely duck that question. The second question asked by Maha Siddiqui, headlines today is Maha Siddiqui, on what his priorities are going to be, and Maha is on the phone line with us to elaborate. Maha, what exactly did the new Foreign Secretary say to your question?
Sanket, he said that the government's priorities are going to be his priority. He was not specific about what his core concern will be at this point in time, whether it's going to be the neighborhood or other countries or look east policy is something that he would want to further strengthen. But at this point, all he said was that he's honored to take on the position of the Foreign Secretary. Perhaps his reticence can be attributed to the fact that this decision has been rather sudden, at least for the rest of us. Although in the corridors of power, there was a buzz that this move could come sooner than later, that Mr. S Jaishankar would, if not as a Foreign Secretary, be accommodated in a position that will be close to the PMO, so that the Prime Minister has an advisor on foreign policy related issues. But it was decided ultimately to bring him in as the Foreign Secretary. Why he's perhaps also being reticent right now is because of the fact that his predecessor, that is Sujata Singh's term was curtailed by 6 months, and that it perhaps was a decision that may look unsavory, so he did not want to comment on the suddenness. All that he said was whatever the government wants to prioritize on as far as foreign policy is concerned, he will take that forward.
Absolutely. Maha Siddiqui, do stay on with us. Let's quickly play that first reaction of the new Foreign Secretary, Mr. S Jaishankar, once again.
Over the next 2 years.
You know, as I take over, I'm happy to work with all of you. I know that the media is an important part of our foreign policy projection. So I don't think this is the time to get into those kinds of questions. I really thank you all for being here today. I value your good wishes. And I'm sure we'll have a lot to do with each other.
But sir, can you outline your priorities? Will the neighboring countries be the priority? Will the West be the priority, or look east? So yes.
You know, my priorities are the government's priorities. And I think at this time, let's leave it at that. So once again, I thank you all for coming, and this is a big responsibility. I'm very I would say I'm very honored that I have been assigned this responsibility, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I think that last bit that Mr. S Jaishankar actually said, that my priority is going to be the government's priority, perhaps sending out a message that he's more in sync with the present day political dispensation, and perhaps the outgoing Foreign Secretary was not. It's a huge political controversy where the Congress has in fact questioned whether this was a retribution for the stand that Sujata Singh actually took on the Devyani Khobragade matter. We'll come back to this particular story and also all the political reactions. I believe we are getting a response from BJP as well. We'll play that and much more.